All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Rams virtual kickoff for charity presented by UNIFY Financial Credit Union. I'm Steve Weich of the NFL Network, and really appreciate you guys being here. Normally we'd be in a ballroom or someplace enjoying this together, but I said normally. This is not a normal year. As we know, I'm here in my house. Most of you are probably in your homes, and hopefully you've been able to endure this heat probably a little bit better than I have. It has been a scorcher, but again, thank you for your time being here for this very, very important event. Now, we're going to talk a lot of football, and what's cool about the start of this event is it's 5:20, exactly 1 week until the Rams kick off against the Dallas Cowboys at the brand new stadium in Inglewood on Sunday Night Football. You can feel the excitement right now. The final cuts are done. Training camp is over. It is time to focus. But as much football as we're going to talk here, this is about the community tonight, and it's about giving back. And we're so happy that our partners, season ticket members, and fans are all here to share in this great evening. All proceeds from tonight's virtual event will help build a better Los Angeles and support the team's efforts to help bridge the digital divide that's disproportionately impacting under-resourced students in Los Angeles. This pandemic has really amplified that. As we know, students are learning virtually, and some students don't even have laptops or even good Wi-Fi to get the proper education. So thank you to all that have already generously donated to the Rams Foundation. And for anyone interested in making a charitable donation to help address education inequities, please visit therams.com/LA Together. We'll be giving you that reminder throughout tonight's program. But again, that's rams.com/LA Together. So over the next hour, we'll be joined by Rams players Jared Goff and Sebastian Joseph Day, head coach Sean McVay, the team COO Kevin Demoff, and other individuals who are playing a vital role in giving back to the LA community. Now, I was here before the Rams came back to Los Angeles, and I can tell you this firsthand. Since the time the organization landed feet back in LA, they have been in the streets, grassroots, making inroads in this community. And the organization has strived to make a difference since then. But over the last 6 months, as we know what's been going on in our world, the Rams have been even more committed to the cause. Here's a look at how the Rams, along with their many partners, have helped a community in need.
I view my role as really being the bridge between the Los Angeles Rams and the Los Angeles community and rally all of our unique resources around the needs of our community. We have an amazing locker room of players. Everyone's active in the community and active in our charitable efforts. We have cheerleaders. Every one of them is active in our community. And we have an amazing staff that's really passionate about giving back and helping the Los Angeles community.
We are here today to support the Rams charity event here at St. Joseph Center. We did this last year. We had such an incredible time here serving the homeless and just the whole community here that we're back here again doing it this year.
They kept telling us, brainstorm, you guys, come up with something. What can you guys do? What can you guys do to engage in the community? It was actually his female partner that said, hey, Coach Z, I know you coach your son's football team in Pop Warner. Why don't you start a football team? So that's how it started. Then they said, okay, when you guys do that, I'll let you guys have one coach from each development and put forth together this team that's not all about separation and division, but about togetherness and unity.
You know, everybody had a chance to start a program. And I knew sports is kind of universal. And if I can get a kid to bite into playing football, that's the first step. Because I don't want some small Mickey Mouse program. I want it big. I want the pads, the helmet. I want to be in a full-blown football league. And you don't know who's going to come knocking, and man, Molly come falling out the heavens, man, and this is crazy.
Back in 2017, they reached out to me via email and invited me to come down and check out their program. And it sounded great on paper. It sounded like they were doing all the right things. When we actually got in the van and we were going through the neighborhoods and the housing developments, and we saw people on the corner actually waving to the cops and the cops giving them a tap on the horn, I knew there was something really powerful happening.
I want to tell you a little bit about my journey that led me here today. So I started working with the juvenile department and came up with an idea. I want to open a restaurant fully staffed by juvenile offenders. But then they started saying things to me like, what are you going to do when the kids stab each other in the kitchen? Those kids don't want to work, they just want to collect a check. Those kids have never been to a nice restaurant, they can't cook your food. And I realized there was never going to be an opportunity for them as long as the community continued to think negatively about who they were. Over 43% of young people that go to jail once will reoffend and be back in jail in less than a year. Of the 811 young men and young women who have engaged with Cafe Momentum, our recidivism rate or reincarceration rate is 15%. And I'm very grateful for you all, because what you don't know is that the entire time you've been sitting here eating, you've been changing lives. I want to bring up 5 of my friends to the stage right now. These are 5 of my friends that are currently in the Ventura Youth Correctional Facility.
This is social justice. What they're doing is what communities and police forces across this country need to be doing, because they're using the game of football to bridge that gap.
Rams, I want you to know that you're an example of how individually and collectively we can change the life of a community. So thank you again, Rams organization.
As well as speaking on behalf of our organization, is really using the power of football to provide hope where it doesn't exist and maintain it where it does, and really impact the future leaders of society.
If you want to be successful as an organization, you look at it, the way the whole thing works, right? You think of athletes first, but really it starts with fans and community and the people that believe in your team and come to watch you every Sunday. I mean, you realize that amount of support you have, and you go, hey, what are you doing besides just, hey, you get paid for this job? What are you doing to give back to that community and back to that city and back to that fan base? To show your part in it, that, hey, I appreciate you buying tickets and wanting to come watch me play, but really I want to show you that it's about more than that. It's about us all being on the same team.
Just amazing work the Rams are doing in the LA metro community, and big shout out to Molly Higgins. You saw her there for the work she does with the Rams and the community and for tonight's event. And also a big thank you to our sponsors tonight, UNIFY Financial Credit Union. You saw some of their employees doing to the community service in that incredible video. All right, now it's time to bring in our first guest. And the Rams moved back to Los Angeles. It wouldn't have happened without the efforts of this individual. So let's bring in the Rams COO, Kevin Demoff. Kevin, thanks so much for joining us. Kevin, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great, Steve. Can you hear me?
I got you loudly and clearly now. Sorry about that. That's where we are in this virtual world, right? Delays, Wi-Fi, all that good stuff. Well, Kevin, go ahead.
I was busy watching the video. I was getting ready to chat, but it's great to see so much good stuff from the team already.
Well, to that point, Kevin, and as I mentioned before we rolled the video, since you guys landed here back in Los Angeles, getting established in the community, but also giving back to the community seemingly has been priority number 1A, along with building that new stadium and getting this team established. Why is that so important?
Well, look, I think when you come back to LA, we really wanted to reestablish ourselves in the community for a couple of reasons. One, we only play 16 Sundays a year. So the other 349 days a year, we need to be making a difference in this community. I think the second is, if you're going to come into Los Angeles and build this unbelievable 300-acre development, this terrific stadium, that can't be the only imprint you put on the community. You have to roll up your sleeves, get involved, and get engaged. And I think the third part is really setting the example for our players, for our staff, for our coaches, to make sure that they know that being a Los Angeles Ram is about more than just putting on the pads, putting in the helmet, and playing at the stadium. It's about coming to Los Angeles each day and giving their talents on and off the field to make this community a better place and inspire Angelinos.
Well, Kevin, you and I have had a lot of conversations about this over the past few years, but especially over the past few months with what we've seen in society and with COVID-19 going on and with NFL athletes really kind of taking to the streets and making their voices heard. And as an organization, it seems as though the Rams players, while they've got a lot of things they could have done, they decided to really address this digital divide issue. What about some of the leadership the players have taken and also them taking on this particular cause? I won't say it's the only cause because we know a lot of players are involved with several causes, but this particular issue, again, which we're addressing tonight.
Well, I think, we always all look for silver linings in this pandemic. And the fact that our players had all off season where they weren't in the office each day, practicing, scrimmaging, they really took it upon themselves when they weren't training to roll up their sleeves and think about how they can impact the community when they get back. And all of us who are parenting at home are trying to understand with Wi-Fi connections, technology, how we bring school to children. And for some, it may be easier than others, but if you look at the number of kids right now in LAUSD, in Inglewood schools who don't have access to Wi-Fi, who don't have computers to do virtual learning, it's not as if they can just drop it in the classroom and figure out how they start today. They really need the tools and the equipment. And our players, we had a long talk last Friday at our team hotel before the scrimmage about what was most important to them. As we headed into this season, what could we conquer that would give them a sense of accomplishment and meaning? And it was strictly about education and the digital divide and how they give kids the tools to succeed in this virtual learning world.
Kevin, what about, we've got a lot of fans, season ticket members, sponsors, on this video chat right now. What about the way the community has responded over the past 4 years to a lot of the grassroots work that this team has done that's now being highlighted with football next Sunday kicking off in a brand new stadium in Inglewood?
Well, I think one of the most meaningful things about being able to do this event virtually, Steve, is this event has been a highlight of ours since we returned back to Los Angeles, sold out each year downtown with the chance to learn more about our community efforts. And so much of what I enjoyed about the opening video is we can talk about the digital divide and some of the pivots the team has made in COVID, but everything you saw in the video, be it the Watts Rams, be it engaging on homelessness with United Way, with education inequities through City Year in partnership for LAUSD schools, those were all in place before the past few months. And I've seen our fans, our season ticket holders, our partners rally around this in so many ways. And I think one of the great things about this year is you'll see in the coming days and weeks with our corporate partners is the way they were able to jump right into our initiatives and say, we want to help. It's not just about SoFi Stadium. It is really about finding ways to lead in the community, engage with those folks, and try to help. And it starts right with UNIFY sponsoring this event tonight, and Gordon and his team have been along with us. I think back to events downtown, soup pantries, St. Joseph's, all the things that UNIFY has done with us alongside the Rams when we brokered. Last year, we hosted our first ever Rams Day of Service Blitz, where we did 7 events with different partners, corporate partners and community partners throughout the day leading up to the holiday season and Christmas. And I think it says as much about our fans and our partners that they go right along with us to make a difference and roll up their sleeves the same way our players do.
Have a little shop talk here. Now, next week you're kicking off with no fans in the stadium. What's that process been like? And are you getting any indication that maybe at some point this season we might be able to get some fans into the new stadium?
It's certainly not the way we ever imagined opening this stadium. We want the Rams house to be full. We want it to be loud to create an advantage for us against the Dallas Cowboys. But the most important thing is keeping our players safe, our coaches safe, our staff safe, and our fans safe. And I think the one thing that we look at is if we all do our part by wearing a mask, by socially distancing, by doing the things that we need to do as a society to get our infection rate down under control, that will get fans in the stands quicker. It is not a football issue. This is a society issue. And we are happy to try to figure out a way to get people back in, but only when our fans feel safe. And if that means later this fall, if that means 2021, we want the Rams house to be a safe and clean house first and foremost when our fans return.
And on that note, what about the way the team, the coaching staff, all the people in your football facility have handled this since training camp opened? Because I believe the past few weeks, there's been no positive test.
Yeah, we've been very fortunate to have no positive tests, and that's a great credit to everybody who has come into our facility each day, who has gotten tested, who has taken social distancing, to the max and making sure that they're wearing masks. They're doing all the little things because it is not a given just because we get to week 1 next week that we're going to play 17 weeks of football, complete that, and have a playoffs. That's going to take the responsibility of every member of our organization, every member of all 32 organizations. And if we can do our part hopefully that can inspire people who watch the NFL to want to do their part as well.
All right, Kev, one last thing. You can break some news right here. Anything happening with Jalen Ramsey? We're seeing all these extensions going on.
We are working hard on Jalen and a few other players, but I want to take a special moment right now to thank Jalen. His donation for $1 million to the educational fund in Nashville is exemplary of who he is as a human being and as a player. And nothing makes us want to do an extension more with Jalen, not just because of what he's done on the field during training camp, not what he's done for us, but that act, his act of giving back, how much he cares about the community. When I think about all of our players who have gotten engaged and involved, and we're talking to on extensions right now, not only are they great on the field, they're great off the field. And I think when we saw that donation, it made us want to double down and see if we can get something done. Hopefully it will happen. If not, I know it'll happen sometime in the future, and we can't wait to have Jalen Ramsey in Horns, hopefully for a long time.
Well, there you go. Jalen Ramsey, a couple of the players we're going to have on tonight, just so many of the players with the Rams. Again, I cover all 32, and you guys are at the top of the board when it comes to community outreach and player outreach. Kevin, great leadership from you and Stan Kroenke and everybody with the Rams. We really appreciate you joining us tonight.
Yeah, thanks. And I think to your point, what Jared Goff has done since he signed his contract has been fantastic. You're going to hear from Scott Budnick, who has done amazing things with our players in ARC, and Sebastian Joseph Day, another standout. So can't wait to hear them, and I'm happy to jump off and see what they have to say.
And folks, that's what we call in the TV business a great tease. First off, remember, if you're able, please consider making a donation at therams.com/LA Together to help the Rams Foundation bridge the digital divide for under-resourced students. Okay, as Kevin just alluded to, it's now time to bring on a trio of guests that have all made a difference, and they are still making a difference throughout our community, and not just our community, but it is amazing some of the work these gentlemen are doing. From the Anti-Recidivism Coalition, and that always trips me up, that's why I always say ARC, the founder, Scott Budnick, and executive director, Sam Lewis, and the founder of Second Call, Skip Townsend. Gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. I'm so glad you guys can join us. Scott, first off, if you could just let the folks who are on this video chat know kind of your backstory and how you got into ARC and some of the things you've done. I just think it's such a great story for those who might not know.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me. I was a movie producer. I started out working with Todd Phillips on Road Trip, Old School, made the Hangover film, Starsky and Hutch, but ultimately went into a juvenile hall in Los Angeles and met kids, 14, 15, 16, facing life sentences in prison, and ultimately got involved as kind of half a movie producer and a half a guy working in criminal justice reform. That first day I met a kid that was 15 and got sentenced to 300 years in prison, and he didn't even touch the gun. And I just realized if that kid had my skin tone, if he had my resources, he'd be out on bail and would not be going to prison for the rest of his life. So I just committed on that day that I was going to use all of my privileges and all the resources I had to fight for people that had none.
Well, absolutely noble. We know you just made the fantastic film Just Mercy from off a book written by one of my idols, Brian Stevenson.
Mine too.
Yep. But the work you've done, you and Second Call, ARC and Second Call have done with the Rams in large part. And we met at an initiative that the team and the stadium and your organizations had last summer, where more than 100 formerly incarcerated people helped build what is now what I like to call the architectural wonder of the world in Inglewood. What about that project and you and ARC and Second Call giving these people an opportunity, or partnering, I should say, to give them an opportunity to not only feed their families and be members of society, be part of something that's going to stand in the middle of Los Angeles and be just this landmark for probably at least 100 years? Well,
before the stadium even came around, we brought the head of the LA Federation of Labor and the head of the building trades unions into Men's Central Jail to meet people that were coming home from incarceration and had a lot of barriers and needed an opportunity, needed one chance. And ultimately, we created a program that not only trained folks to enter the construction unions, but guaranteed them a placement into one of 6 different unions when they graduated. And so in the last 3 years, we've graduated hundreds of people, and we're able to send dozens of folks over to help the creation of the stadium. And one of the most beautiful of those dozens of folks, 50 plus folks that went over to the stadium from ARC, one was Gilbert, who I knew in prison. I watched him on his 40th year. He was incarcerated 40 years, come home from incarceration and tried to enter a world that was completely unfamiliar to him. And he went through our construction union training program. He decided, because he graduated college while in prison, that he would train to be an electrician, because there's a lot of math requirements, as Skip and Second Call know, in terms of folks that want to go into the electricians union. Gilbert, because of his participation in ARC and all the help of Second Call, went into the electricians union, was assigned to build the Rams stadium, and spent literally, I think he was one of the last workers to finish the job. He was there for years, and just completely revolutionized his life, where in fact he was able to take his family out of the country on vacation and do things that he could have ever dreamed of. And the fact that this not only is so life-changing for Rams fans and all of us who want to see our team win in that stadium, but the fact that people could put their blood, sweat, and tears, could show up early, stay late, work their butts off to build something that's this important, and to be able to build a career for their family is just a beautiful thing.
Now, Sam, you were formerly incarcerated, and I just want to ask you what it's like, because now you're part of ARC. You're seeing these people come through your program. What are some of the biggest rewards that you've seen people feel, including yourself, being accepted back into society? Because some people don't want to do that, and to be able to have meaningful jobs and to fix themselves, to have families and be contributing members of our community.
So first I'd like to say is we call our pre-apprenticeship program the Second Chance Pre-Apprenticeship Boot Camp. But the fact is that many people that have been incarcerated come from places that are under-resourced, low income, and with bad schools, just to be blunt. And so in many instances, this is their first chance at a real opportunity. And so for me, the thing that stands out and really makes me feel great is when I see a person that's 22 who went to jail when he was 15 or she was 15 without any true hope of what the future would look like, to finish and to end up in a union job, and then watch them as they progress and raise a family. And so literally being able to watch their trajectory, because they had this one chance, this one opportunity that would, in most circumstances, would have never been given to them. And so being able to watch them live their best life and be the best version of themselves because they were given an opportunity and were willing to work hard for it, that's the best thing that I get out of it each time.
Skip, quickly, first question, I want you to follow up a little bit longer on the next one, but how do you identify those who are either in or recently released from being incarcerated to get into Second Call?
Well, thank you for the question. Let me give honor and praise to God to be even alive to speak with you guys today. I go inside the prison. So I work in the prisons. I've seen Scott there several times. He's actually come to a class. But when individuals come home, they come looking for Second Call. It's word of mouth. When Sam came home, we saw Sam as well. So we don't have to go find the people. The people kind of find us. It's those who are left without hope. It's those individuals who've been turned down so many times, or they went to some program and the program promised them, dreams, and they didn't receive it. So then they come to us, and we have to be blunt and tell them what the process is. So we identify how to deal with anger, how to deal with emotions, how to deal with low self-esteem as a man or as a woman. So we help those individuals with those traits before we can even get to what Scott was talking about, doing the math and things of that nature. We have to first make sure we have healthy people, and that's our priority.
And to follow it up, we have seen bipartisan prison reform, where a lot more people now have the opportunity, probably not as many enough, but to get out of being incarcerated a little bit sooner and get back into the workforce a little bit more. How important does that make Second Call and ARC and other programs like yours?
Well, I think it's very important. I think it's highly important that there's an opportunity for people when they come home. But the main part of it is, though, they might be great electricians, might be great carpenters, good pipe fitters or sheet metal workers, but we want to make sure they're good people so that when they come home, they don't recidivate. We want to make sure when they come home, they're going to be good husbands, good wives, good sons, good daughters. And it's funny that Scott talked about Gilbert. And Gilbert's mother came to a meeting and said that he bought a 70-inch TV, and it just made him so happy. That creates a good person. You know what I mean? So all the stuff that ARC and Second Call is doing, in my opinion, we're not making good electricians and good iron workers. We're making good people. We're helping people to become healthy and be productive members, not only just in society, but with their own families and their own homes. I think that's so important.
I tell you what, when I did the project, I met Skip and I met you and Scott out there at the stadium, and I spoke with so many of these men and women. And one of the coolest things I heard one of them say is when the lights are turned on at that stadium, or when somebody flushes a toilet at that stadium, that's their work. And the pride and everything that brought them will just come full circle because they had a hand in this. Thank you guys for everything you do. And thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Steve, thank you, brother.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you so much. And just a reminder to everyone out there, again, if you want to contribute to the Rams Foundation, therams.com/LA together. Again, that was just fantastic. And the work these guys do is just so important, especially in the world today. Speaking of the work that needs to be done, the digital divide and education inequality. We know this is a social injustice. We hear that phrase thrown around a lot today, but when young kids do not have the opportunity to learn on equal footing, that tips the scales out of the gate. So the Rams are here to ensure a child's future is not dictated by the zip code that they live in. So on that note, our next two guests, they'll be on the field. So here we go, facing off against the Dallas Cowboys a week from today. And both have been doing their part off the field as well with community efforts. I have been tracking them and following them, and the work these young men and some of their teammates are doing is to be highly commended. You're going to hear a lot more about that. So let's welcome in quarterback Jared Goff and defensive tackle Sebastian Joseph Day. Gentlemen.
What's up?
What's up?
Hey, no days off, guys. No days off. Hey, first off, before we even get started, a week from today, Jared, you're going to be like calling audibles, and Sebastian, you're going to be on the other side trying to figure out what Dak Prescott's doing. How are you guys feeling?
Feeling good, man. Ready to get started. It seems like we've been kind of dragging our feet here for a few weeks, just waiting to get on the field, and it's coming up. We're ready.
Exactly what Jared said, man. We're just excited. We're excited to get back after it, man.
Okay, great. And for those of you who might just be joining us, you're watching the Rams virtual kickoff for charity that is presented by UNIFY Financial Credit Union. Okay, so guys, first off, you all are taking on the motto, the initiative all years, it takes all of us. Jared, could you explain to everybody on this call why you decided to kind of push that and why that's so important?
Yeah, I think, with everything that's been going on, we've really, as a team, had a lot of discussions, and having Sebastian be a part of that as well. And some of his insight has been really valuable for us in making some of these decisions. But I think ultimately, it's no longer a one-sided fight or a one-sided battle. It takes all of us. It takes everyone. It takes everyone of every skin color, of every race, religion, creed, whatever it may be, to fight the social injustices and inequities in our country.
Now, Sebastian, we know you are a member of the Players Coalition, and really your big push. You wrote a big op-ed about it, really caught my attention. That's when I reached out to you over Twitter, like, we need to talk. Has been about this digital divide. Could you explain why that is so important and why the Rams as a team have really prioritized this initiative?
So obviously, due to the pandemic that's been going on, there have been situations of kids not being able to necessarily access or go to school because of their financial situation. So whether that may be Wi-Fi, or just not being able to get a laptop. So the efforts that we've honestly been really sticking to and focusing on is how to close that margin between those kids in marginalized communities and not being able to have the opportunity to go to school. So that's really something that I focus on as well as the Rams this offseason.
Jared, as a team, and we spoke about this the other day, but we saw last week several teams in response to the police shooting of Jacob Blake up in Wisconsin decided not to practice or to take a day to do this or that. You guys decided to practice, but then to also take things a step further in the community. Could you explain that?
Yeah, we had discussions absolutely about whether we wanted to practice or not that day. And I think ultimately we came to the decision that for us as a team, the best thing we could do is have these conversations, and canceling practice was not going to further anything that we wanted to do as a team. And I think we did have those conversations. We've had a lot of these conversations, and we've had a lot of really impactful conversations for me as a white guy being educated about a lot of this. But now is time for action. And we've finally, I think, gotten to that point where we are prepared and have put enough thoughts on paper, put enough surveys together, and the action is going to take place very shortly here with what we're going to do as a team, and the type of money we're looking to raise pretty soon here. And it's a full team effort. And I think it go back to your previous question. It does take all of us, and it's not going to be the guys that have the most money on the team that are just going to push this initiative. It's going to be everybody. Everyone's involved in this, and from coaches, players, staff, everyone in the organization. And it's a really, really cool moment for us to seize, and something we're excited about.
Sebastian, how do you compartmentalize this, though? Okay, you guys are dealing with the COVID protocols. You guys are in an off-season and a season that you've never experienced before. You've got the Cowboys to prepare for, and you're talking about doing all of these things. Plus, you've got families and everything else. How do you compartmentalize and make sure that this education initiative that you're working on gets equal shrift?
Honestly, I think it just comes to organization, and honestly, we have a great group of guys on our team, a great coaching staff as well. They just do a great job with helping us organize everything and knowing when to work on certain things at certain times, if that makes sense. That's really just what we've been doing. Honestly, it's just when it's time to work, it's time to work. Then when I'm not working, then my attention goes right over to social injustice, you know what I'm saying? And then after that, it's straight to the film, watching film with the Cowboys. So that's kind of just how we do it. And I just think we have a real mature group of guys that just know how to compartmentalize all that stuff.
All right, Jerry, we got to give a little football conversation. You guys just wrapped training camp late last week. Are you guys already deep into the archives, the film archives for the Cowboys? And on that note, they've got a new coach. They've got a new defensive coordinator. Do you have to go back and study like Packers tape for Mike McCarthy or Niners tape or Saints tape for Mike Nolan to kind of figure out what you're going to be going up against?
Yeah, you go back to the early 2000s for Mike Nolan with the Niners. No, I'm kidding. But we've been watching some stuff. Yeah, we've been watching a lot of stuff and trying to get an idea. I mean, there is no way to know, though. I mean, you're really at some point chasing ghosts as far as what you're looking for and what you're going to try to find. And so for the most part, we're focusing on ourselves and what we can do offensively and what we're good at. And at the same time, we do have a little bit of an idea of what their philosophy will be, and we'll attack it accordingly.
All right, Sebastian, everyone keeps on saying the no crowd, but you guys have experienced with two scrimmages here, this kind of white noise that they're going to be pumping in there. What is that like? Especially as a defensive lineman, you guys are trying to communicate like in a phone booth, so to speak.
No, that little white noise in the background is a lot louder than people think. So it's definitely interesting. It's definitely a different dynamic, but we're just gonna do our best to continue to communicate the best as we can. We have great linebackers that do a good job communicating and stuff like that. So we're gonna figure it out. But yes, that noise is definitely different and a lot louder than people do think. For sure.
All right, I'm sorry about this. I want to bring it back to the community outreach. And guys, we had Kevin Demoff earlier. And Jared, I'll start with you. What about, because you've been here pretty much since the team has come back to LA for the most part. What about the growth you've seen and the support you've seen from leadership to really encourage guys to get involved?
Yeah, I know it starts at the top, and I think just from who we get to see every day, the way Sean's handled this, I think, has been tremendous. His leadership on this and allowing players to have a voice and allowing guys to have a forum and people to listen, and his listening skills that are what I think is one of his best qualities in this department of social injustice. He's done a great job, and he's really given us that platform to speak how we want to and have guys speak from their heart, and guys that are passionate speak the way they want to. And it's been really important. And then I think Kevin as well, like you mentioned, Kevin was really good. I think we had a discussion, I believe it was a week or two ago, with a lot of the team, and Kevin led it, and it was a long discussion. And Kevin's really done a great job, because we can only go as far as at the end of the day, it's dollars and commitment. And to an extent, Kevin has a lot of control as far as where that stuff goes, and for him to show the commitment to us and to the movement that we want to make is so important. And it was so awesome to see him do that, and gives us just so much more ownership and so much more want to, I guess, when it comes to social injustice type of stuff, as far as just Kevin being there to help us.
Sebastian, we often talk about what the players do or teams do or the NFL is doing, but can you maybe give us an example of some feedback you've gotten from an individual who you've worked with, or a kid who is a beneficiary of something that you've done, and how much that meant to let you know that what you guys are doing in the community is working?
Oh, I mean, honestly, it's so hard to honestly explain the feeling. It's such a beautiful feeling. Just to know that you're able to just help someone, take the next step forward in their life, wherever it may be. Whether it's high school, college, trade school, whatever it may be. And there's no feeling like it, man. There's no feeling like it. And that's all I could really say about that. That's all I really have to say about that. And just, that's all. That's all I gotta say.
Well, look, I really appreciate you guys taking the time. We know you got, a lot of other things you have to do, and I'm sure you guys fully understand that any and everything you guys say and do to help a young person have a better life, it really does mean a lot. So thank you guys for joining us on this virtual kickoff charity event presented by UNIFY Financial Credit Union.
Steve, thanks for having us.
Appreciate it, Steve.
You got it, guys. And remember, if you want to make a charitable donation to help the Rams Foundation address education inequities, please visit therams.com/LA Together. I'm going to keep pounding it, because all proceeds are going to help a lot of young people, again, level the playing field. All right, now joining us right now, and this is really cool, is a local rapper and community activist who's been hard at work with the Rams to address racial and social inequality. So everyone, let's welcome in Stix. Stix, good evening. Stix, this is Steve White. You got me?
I got you.
Hey, man, how you dealing with this heat? Because it's hot.
Hey, man, that's because we dropped this fire today. That's why.
I like how you're doing it. That's what I'm saying. First off, before we roll this video, Stix, why don't you explain how you started up this partnership with the Rams? I hear it's a pretty cool story.
Oh, man. Man, it all started from I started to hear about Molly from the Rams and everything that she was doing in Watts. And I just kept hearing about her, Molly. I'm like, yo, anybody doing something in Watts, I need to know who it is. And then I seen everything the Rams were doing with the Watts Rams, the youth football team. And I just said, man, everything that's going on over there is amazing. And anybody who means well, who is supporting or fighting for anybody in the neighborhood that I grew up in, I'm all for it, man. So, yeah, man, that's that. And Molly reached out. It started with a DM on Twitter. And then next thing you know, I had a meeting at a police station. It did. From that meeting at the police station, it just turned into an incredible relationship. And we did What's Watts piece was our first piece of work together. And then as we started to have more dialogue and conversation, we started to identify that we're both aligned in fighting for things like social injustices and education disparities and financial inequities. And so anything in the realms of those three things, I'm all the way in. So it's turned out to be an amazing relationship.
Well, on that note, I just talked to Jared and Sebastian about the Rams theme of It Takes All of Us, Stix. I'm going to let you intro the new video.
Oh, man. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why the heat wave is what it is today. This is the debut. The You See It First. Watts, Think Watts, Stix. The greatest video of all time. It Takes All of Us, featuring myself and the Rams organization. Let's go.
The scars and stains of racism still remain deeply embedded in American society. We must never ever give up. We must keep the faith and keep our eyes on the prize.
It's time. I think it's time. The time is now. If you with me, form a line. It's time. I think it's time. If you with me, everybody form a line. Everybody put your fists up. Better raise them high. Bring the worlds together. Now it's time to rise. I'ma take you to my city. I'ma take you on a ride. Man, as soon as we was born, we are taught to survive. Hey, I'm working, I'm getting a check. I'm trying to earn me the respect. But worried the color of my skin won't put me in front of the rest. They don't teach us how to sail. They teach us about a sail. While the banks is getting bailed, my homies is posting bail. Is it inmate or end zone? Tired of singing same songs. About to bust through the line, breaking through the status quo. They try to tell us shut up, we gotta take a stand. They say y'all head hard, well this one for the Rams. This one for the black and brown, yellow and that blue. This one for recidivism, this goes out to you. To the boys in the blue, ayy, we are people too, ayy, gotta protect our women, ayy, treat them like the truth, ayy, the time is now, you about to feel the rush, the time is now, it takes all of us, toes on the ground, we never giving up, the time is now, it takes all of us.
But there's still invisible signs. Too many of us still believe our differences define us instead of the divine spark that runs through all of human creation.
Wave your rags if you're feeling me. No justice, no peace, so we take a knee. Lock them arms side to side, it's just you and me. It takes all of us. It takes all of us.
Take it easy.
This is a public service announcement by the good people of Think Watts, St. Pat, and the Los Angeles Rams. See, the time is now. It's now more than ever. And if we can come together, we can make some change. It takes all of us. 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 It takes all of us.
Woo! All right, Stix. Yeah, you weren't playing, man. Fantastic job. Well done. I mean, great video, well made. And look, we kind of get the theme of this, but from your point of view, what is kind of the overall message people should take from this video?
The people should understand that it takes all of us, just like what it says. It takes everyone, no matter what you may classify yourself in regards to background, culture, creed, gender, etc. We must come together and in order to combat the injustices that exist today. There are a multitude of things, like I said, where we have to dig to the root of what are the major causes of what's going on today. We have to address financial inequities. That's where it starts. The disparities in the Black community, the brown community, et cetera. And then there's also education, the lack of financial literacy, the lack of historical information that exists still today, like redlining and people understanding what that is. And so we must educate ourselves together. We must help each other together. It will take some strong, significant push to support campaigns that fight for justice in regards to all cultures, backgrounds. And that's what the overall message is. It takes all of us to come together in order to combat all of these things.
Well done, Stix. I think the one thing, too, is we all need to exercise our right November 3rd, and that's the right to vote. Regardless of who you vote for, a lot of people have died for that right, and we need to make sure we exercise, again, that privilege and that right. Stix, keep doing what you do. Keep up the awareness. We really appreciate you joining us tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Okay, so that was fantastic. It goes to show you again the outreach, the bandwidth, and the cause. And to help again support these causes, the Rams.com/LA together. All right, next up. Now we're going to get down to brass tacks here. Head coach Sean McVay will be joining us. Sean, are you there? Hello, Sean. All right, Sean, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I got you. How you doing?
There we go. I'm doing well, Sean. How's everything? Steve White.
Good to see you, man.
You too, man. Hey, how you dealing with this heat? I know it's like 400 degrees out there where you are.
I am steaming right now in my home office. So looking at getting ready for these guys next Sunday, but it is hot out here.
It is hot. It is hot, but we can deal with it for a couple of days. But I really appreciate you taking the time. Again, we know your game planning and everything else, but this is such an important event that the Rams have been so involved in, and that's addressing some of the community outreach. And Sean, I want to start with that opening scene that we saw in Hard Knocks this week, where Artis Twyman, the director of media relations for the team, is showing you the video of the George Floyd shooting, and you look like you were getting ready to just throw up, faint, whatever. What was that like for you to see that?
Yeah, so you obviously hear about it, and sometimes to a fault, we're in our little shell as coaches. And I had heard about what, the terrible tragedy that happened with Jacob Blake. And then, when it ends up, you actually see what really occurred, you're just taken aback by it, and the cameras that capture you there, those are just automated ones that are sitting there. So you forget for a second, when you have the cameramen around you, I don't think, you're always so mindful of that, but sometimes I forget those are just set up in my office. And when Artis showed me that, it was terrible. I mean, to be able to see that where he was walking away and, just being able to get all the different things in the dialogue that's come up, but then to see somebody go through that tragedy, it just makes you sick and it, you feel terrible.
So how did you navigate? Okay, so you guys are like right in the guts of your final stretch of training camp. So you're navigating coaching your team. You call together the leadership council of your team. I mean, are you able as a coach to cut out a slice of your day during this important time? You got cuts to do and everything else to address this. And the second part I'll ask is, were you satisfied with the way your players handled that?
Yeah. So I think, this is so important. It's so much bigger than football. And, asking more questions than ever has been the best thing, for me and being able to have certain people that I'm leaning on, whether it be our staff or our players. But that leadership group that you mentioned, Steve, has been instrumental and really being able to help kind of get a pulse for the locker room. But it's still important to connect with every single one of our guys and getting a feel, making sure that our staff is connected to our players. And I think the big thing is just listening more. There's so many layers to these things. Everybody's perspectives and different experiences and environments shape the way that they look at it. I don't think there's a one size fits all, but I know our guys want to be able to get involved and feel like they're doing something to make a change, to try to change the narrative and a lot of the things that have gone on too long unaddressed in our country. And being able to hear their thoughts, know that there's a lot of guys that are committed to trying to get involved because that's what's on their heart. That's been the best guiding, that's been the best way of kind of just navigating through this, as you asked, Steve.
And what about your players kind of taking on this digital divide, education, and equity cause as their primary focus to address?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different things that we've discussed, but, that was something that you feel like you can make a tangible difference. And there's still other things that we want to make sure that we're connecting. You had Sebastian on earlier. I've been able to really get some great insight from him. But so many of our different players just want to be involved and want to do something, that helps change move the needle in the right direction. And that's what that represents. But there's a lot of different things that guys will be doing moving forward and really making sure that whether it's contributing money, contributing time, these are going towards actionable plans that are in alignment with solutions as opposed to just kind of continuing to speak on it.
All right, Sean, a little football talk here for everybody on the call. You're probably coming off of has to be some of the toughest, the most gut-wrenching 24 hours or so that an NFL coach has to go through around the league, and that's player cuts. What about the way you shaped your 53-man roster, and you think you really pretty much nailed it when it comes to the identity that you want to have for your team going into 2020?
I think we feel really good about it, Steve. As you mentioned, it's a really tough day, but I think what has been, such a refreshing thing is you realize the quality of men that we have in our building, the way that they were able to handle some of those tough conversations. And fortunately, with them expanding the practice squad, a lot of these guys are going to be back with us tomorrow when we end up having a bonus day. So we do feel good about the identity. You can ask me that after our game against the Cowboys next week, and I'll really be able to give you the answer.
Oh, we'll be asking. Always a question, comes up always this time of year, but Jared Goff's development, where he is, because, the days I've been out there, he seems far more in lockstep with you, with where this offense wants to go. You've kept most of the skilled players intact, most of the offensive line intact. Where is Jared, and then the overall functionality with the cohesiveness of this offense?
Yeah, I think he's done a really nice job. The best part about this camp is I think he's had his best couple weeks as of late, and that's what you want. You want to be peaking at the right time. Kevin O'Connell's come in here and done an outstanding job. He spent a lot of time with him. I think those two are truly in lockstep, able to really have a plan, how they want to attack the day, what are the things that they want to be intentional about improving on while not losing sight of a lot of the good things that he has done. And we're excited about Jared's leadership. As you accumulate experience, we always talk about repetition is the mother of learning, and he's doing that the right way. He's got some great players around him, and we're looking forward to big things from Jared.
Sean, Aaron Donald's been at this for a little bit, but he really seems to be maybe at his best entering the season. I don't know if you would agree with that, but just your thoughts on where he is and just how dominant he could be in 2020.
Yeah, you've seen it, Steve. I mean, what he's done is unbelievable. And I think him really understanding some of the things we're trying to get done within the framework of some new concepts that we might be activating. But I just continue to gain more of an appreciation for what a unique talent and the way that he consistently works. He's obviously so special as a player, but I've never been around anybody that works hard like him either. And what a powerful thing it is to be able to say, hey, look at AD. What's he doing right now? And when that epitomizes all the things that we want to be able to represent, we talk about you see a lot better than you hear, and watching what AD does day in and day out is why I do think the best is yet to come for a guy that's already had an unbelievable career.
Big picture. We just went through a training camp with no joint practices and no preseason. Do you want those to come back, or one over the other?
Yeah, I would definitely want that to come back. I think it's a great measuring stick. I think it breaks up the monotony of camp. That was one of the challenges for us is when you're going against one another for so long, you still want to compete, let guys push one another. But it also, you whether you're walking through practicing, you're seeing a lot of the things, and you don't want to start making stuff up when you're not playing your team during the season. But we're all competitors. Guys want to have success on offense and defense and special teams. So I would like to see that come back. And one of the things that I've really enjoyed have been those joint practices, Steve. But preseason is a great opportunity for some of those younger players, but the joint practices is definitely something that I think we've benefited from each of the last few years.
Sean, Kevin talked about it briefly, but just the impact of Jalen Ramsey and having a special player like that, a corner who's going to come up and hit, a corner who can cover, a corner who can travel, a corner who can pretty much do anything you want him to do.
Yeah, it's you mentioned it right there, and what you can do with guys like him, because he has a guy in a lot of instances over the course of his career, even dating back to Jacksonville, where he's truly traveling and playing with some of these best, receivers, and he's holding his own, and he's not afraid of a challenge. But that's not all he can do. You mentioned it. I mean, you look at the first game that he played with us against the Falcons, he comes up and forces a fumble on Devontae Freeman on a toss crack. He's got great ball skills. He's got great zone awareness. I mean, some of the picks that he made last year, his concept recognition, he's got it all. He's an elite competitor, and those are the kind of guys that you want. And you can look for him to be activated in a variety of ways coming Sunday.
All right, some of the rookies that some of the folks on this call should be looking out for.
Yeah, so I think, we've mentioned it a lot, Steve. That, I've been really impressed with, two of our young safeties and Fuller and Burgess. They've really done an excellent job under Coach Evero's guidance. And then when you look at offensively, Thomas Brown's done a great job with Cam Akers and Coach Yarber with Van Jefferson. certainly Tremaine Ankrum has been a bright spot. Unfortunately, with Terrell Lewis, he's got a knee right now that he'll end up missing the Dallas game. But overall, we've been really pleased with our draft class, and those are guys you can expect some good stuff from this year.
Okay, so let's kind of bring it back to the initial mission of this. We talked about some of the rookies and shaping this roster. What do you think it means to some of the new players on this team to come in this awkward environment and to see your leadership, Jared's leadership, Robert Wood's leadership with some of these community service-driven activities that you guys have talked about and you're doing to kind of let them know the bar that you expect from them moving forward when it comes to doing things with the people of Metro Los Angeles and the importance of trying to level some of the scales?
Yeah, I think they have such a benefit of being able to be around veteran players that have a heart for what's right and being able to use their platform for the right reasons. These are guys that epitomize what we want on the field, but more importantly, being able to use this platform to make a difference in the community. They got a heart for people, and that's important. The types of guys that we look for, high character, that love football, and that is best epitomized by them teaming up with Molly, taking the initiative to really, make actionable plans to make a difference and fight things that have been going on far too long. But there's been a lot of great things before this, just with community service. And, I mentioned the Watts Rams, and I saw Stix was on here earlier. So there's just so many good things going on. And I tell people all the time, you never regret doing something to help somebody else out. It's like, hey, can you ever think of anybody that say, I really regret helping somebody else out, using the blessings that I have to truly make a difference. And that's what we've got for our guys on this team. And that's why I think these rookies and these younger players have a great example of what it looks like to make a big impact in a lot of different ways.
All right, Sean, one last question here. It's kind of football related, bigger picture, but we know after the first scrimmage, you said this white noise, this faux noise that's pumped into the stadium was about as annoying as it gets. Yeah. So you go back to the second scrimmage. Did you kind of get used to it? And if you got a pump in crowd noise, is there any way you can figure that in practice? Like, you got to get used to calling plays and making your checks in that. And do you want to hear it since it is so annoying?
Yeah, I would say you'd always prefer the real crowd noise that truly reflects the ebbs and flows of a game. That's what makes it so exciting. But the second scrimmage was much better. I think just catching you off guard, we're like, oh my gosh, is that irritating? So there's some more clear-cut parameters about the 70 decibel level. We had the scrimmage cranked up over that in a couple of the drives that our first group was going at. So didn't feel like it was a factor. I think it was really just to kind of minimize the ability to hear things from the opposite sideline and on the field while not totally just crushing your eardrums. But it'll be something, I think, more than anything, I'm just excited about playing football, seeing these guys go compete. And I cannot believe this time next week we'll be doing it right now.
There you go. You're going to be wrapping up probably the end of the first quarter right about now. Well, Sean,
right. Crowd's
appreciate
going crazy.
There it is, the white noise. Yeah. Sean, you're the best. Thank you so much for joining us for this big event. Best of luck to you the rest of the way.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Always good to see you, Steve. Thanks so much.
You too. All right, folks, that's going to do it for tonight's event. And I can't thank you for spending time with us and being part of the Rams virtual kickoff for charity. Again, it was presented by UNIFY Financial Credit Union. Thank you so much for sponsoring this very, very important event. We want to thank our sponsors, our season ticket members, and all the fans for joining us tonight. And a heartfelt thank you to all that have donated to the Rams Foundation in order to help address education and equities in our communities. For Kevin Demoff, Scott Budnick, Sam Lewis, Skip Townsend, Jared Goff, Sebastian Joseph Day, Stix, and Coach McVay, Steve White, NFL Network saying thank you, have a good night, and stay cool.